This story was sent to us from Todd. This story happened to my grandmother. My grandmother was living alone for about 3 years after my grandfather died. My brother and I always assisted her when she needed help, but for the most part, she was very independent. One day she decided to go to the grocery store a few towns over from the town she lived in. She got what she needed from the grocery store and walked back to her car. While she was loading the groceries in the trunk, she noticed a car with very dark tinted windows. The windows were so dark that she couldn't see who was in it. The car pulled over nearby where she was parked. She got into her car and pulled out of the parking lot. My grandmother noticed that the car was traveling in the same direction as her. After about 10 minutes, she felt like she was being followed. My grandmother lived in a very residential area and she had never seen a car like this one in her neighborhood before. As she inched closer to her house, she was becoming more and more nervous. She pulled over on the street next to hers because she didn't want this person to follow her to her house. After she pulled over, the other car got in front of her and blocked her from being able to drive away. She started to back up, but then, another car matching the one in front of her pulled up behind her and now she was blocked in. Unfortunately, my grandmother didn't even have a cell phone. She hadn't adapted to technology and still only used her house phone. She even carried a small phone book wherever she went. She just stood there frozen with fear. After a couple of minutes, a tall man exited the vehicle and walked towards my grandmother's car. She had her doors locked, but the man banged on her window and demanded that she open her door immediately. When she wouldn't open her door, he pointed a gun right at her, which spooked her. She unlocked the door, and the man snatched her purse and jewelry and drove away. They even stole her wedding ring, which was obviously very sentimental to her. One of the neighbors saw the whole thing happen and called the police. The police called my father to notify him of what had happened. They looked for the guys who robbed my grandmother, but they didn't find them that day. Until a few days later when they did the same thing to another elderly lady. Their next victim didn't hand over her belongings and they ended up doing the unthinkable. I can't believe that there are people in this world who will end the life of another human being, especially an elderly person, over money and jewelry. My dad went to all the pawn shops in the area to find my grandmother's ring and he ended up finding it. My grandmother didn't go anywhere alone since the incident and my father ended up putting her into a nursing home where she is much safer. Stay spooked.